Wait, there's something very weak coming through.
I hope they do something, like, totally unexpected and cool.
Yeah.
But we're given no indication that that's the case.
Yeah.
We don't even have a trailer yet. We're supposed to do a trailer thing with
No. Yeah.
Irritating.
You got your old...
You want me to be excited about your movie? You gotta work a lot harder than that to make me excited.
Long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 55. Today, we are going to be talking about what makes a Star Wars movie a Star Wars movie. Joining me today is Heather Allred.
Hey, everybody.
Todd Hoffman.
What's going on?
And with us tonight, special guest, Ben Otto. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, thanks. Great to be back.
If you recall, we had Ben on our show all the way back in episode 36, Nerd Fury, and he is making his triumphant return today. So, please, Ben, if you don't mind, if you can give our listeners a little background info on yourself.
Wow. So,
only a little bit.
Only a little
we don't
bit,
need your social security, whatever.
It all happened.
Yes.
Well, I've been a Star Wars fan for pretty much all my life, actually, but it's been in different phases, and I think more recently than not, it's gotten a little bit more into the depth of story and what does that mean, the Joseph Campbell stuff, obviously relevant for this conversation. Lots of layers in Star Wars, and I always appreciate it. Outside of that, I do acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I'm versed in supplements.
Excellent.
Nice.
Well, it's good to have you back on our show.
In my life.
Yeah.
So, once again, you could check us out on social media, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. And here we go with our main topic of the night.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right. So, before we get into what makes a Star Wars movie, I thought it'd be cool to read a little excerpt from the Art of the Last Jedi book. So if you haven't picked that up, you got to pick it up because it's amazing. So the Ford is by Rian Johnson. So I'm just going to read this little part right here. It's pretty cool. So this is what he says. He says, here's a party trick you can do. The next time you find yourself in a design office of a Star Wars movie, lean over to the wealthiest looking person you can find, nudge them, and whisper, "Psst, I bet I can grind this whole place to a halt for 3 hours. When you've got the bet secured, clear your throat and loudly ask, no one in particular, so what makes something look Star Wars-y?" Pencils will drop, opinions will be expressed about pill lights and coffin-shaped doors, gack lines and kit bashing, World War II and Flash Gordon, and then someone who worked on the prequels might say something about domes, and a chorus will rise in response, and the game will be on. Check your watch, and in 3 hours, collect your money. Congratulations. This book just paid for itself. So, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, that's from Rian Johnson. So obviously that probably happened multiple times as they were designing The Last Jedi. So let's open that question up to the whole group. And I'll start with our esteemed guest, Ben.
Thank you.
What makes a Star Wars movie a Star Wars movie, Ben?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me that. Again, there's been many layers, and so I guess I'll just go through the layers that it has been for me in my life. The first layer obviously would be a sci-fi adventure with technological gadgets and various space themes. it is, I think, a lot of people would say a love story, love for friends, friendship, love for a son and his father and a father for his son. And I think as previously stated, the most recent layer, for me anyway, is the Joseph Campbell art of myth archetypal storytelling that George Lucas used to craft the whole at least original trilogy.
Yeah, that's good. That's
That
solid.
would be my biggest thing at this point, and how I'm also framing The Last Jedi to be continued.
Sure. Heather,
Yes.
what makes a Star Wars movie for you?
Droids.
Lots of droids.
K2SO, man.
Something deeper.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I think any good storytelling revolves around an environment with character development. And I think the original trilogy set us into this world, gave us that fun sci-fi, fun new technology, the intermingling of species. The prequels had a place. The new movies are obviously either loved or hated or tolerated, but are extensions of that original creation. I think it's like any author writing a story and each child reading it and kind of seeing it sort of differently in their own imagination. I have not delved into the books. I'm not sure if Ben knows that, so just give him a little history on me in that regards.
Boo, no.
I know, seriously. So,
And you call yourself a fan.
I know, but I am a fan, and
It's overwhelming, the books.
Yeah.
There's
so many.
there's so much, and I think that's where it becomes tricky as a fan, because there's so much to take in, and whoever writes it, we're getting their point of view, of a story. I'm sure the way Han would explain something is very different than the way Leia would explain something, and they're in the same world.
Yep. All right, Aaron, you're up.
Well, kind of like Ben, I would explain it as there's this power of myth to it that you can't really get away from, especially with the Force and good and evil clashing. There's certainly a lot of that in there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's space fantasy, and I think that needs to come through loud and clear for anything to be Star Wars. This idea that you had this world pervaded with technology, different weapons of war, but kind of like the undercurrent through it all is this mysterious force that can do wild and wondrous things. If only you would open your eyes and peer deep enough to be able to see it. And I think that's certainly an important bedrock foundation to the whole thing.
Right.
And I think most of all, it's just adventure. It's going to see these weird and wild worlds with strange looking aliens and droids and, traveling with your friends to fight against the great evil and throw all those things together. And that's essentially Star Wars.
A little dash of porgs on top, and you got it, man.
There you go.
Pork pudding.
Pork pudding, exactly. Yeah. Those were all very good answers, and I would kind of reflect the same thing. I mean, it's sci-fi at its essence is like an allegory to real life. So when George created this, a lot of things were going on, and it's a reflection of what he thought. And it is about relationships. It is about family, and it's also about war. And his statement on, again, stormtroopers and the Empire, it's straight up Nazis, and Clone Wars is about Vietnam. And, there's a lot of little intricacies, and wars are complex, and so are family structures. And obviously, We see the good and the sins of a family, how that affects a whole galaxy. And so that to me is kind of the essence of Star Wars. But like for me personally, I almost like everything outside of the movies, as far as just like, yeah, the movies are there, but I like everything around it. You know, I like the universe. I love everything about it and what it represents. And then what I really particularly love is how it affects people in different ways. I think that's such a special thing. And that's why, 40 years later, we're still talking about Star Wars, and we have a Star Wars podcast, and it's a lot of fun. And we get to have these wonderful conversations about this thing, this movie. And I think that's really special. And that's why it's still has legs and will continue to have legs, 40 years from now. So especially if Disney has anything to say about it. So
I'm totally going to jump back in for a second, because I think, Todd, you said something that really kind of sparked a thought in my brain. Like you said, when you remove yourself from just the film component, and we're still talking about it 40 years later, and even just right now, we've got 4 different people, 4 different walks of life, 4 different introductions, et cetera, that's kind of the beauty of what makes a Star Wars movie is, or the universe, that there's some component in it that relates to the person who's engaging in it. And they all have their different avenues. Yeah.
And you're my favorite example, Heather, because like I hate Ewoks, but you love Ewoks. And that was like your like gateway drug into Star Wars. And so again, like I was 5 years old when I saw Empire, and that left a very big impact on my life. And I'm still talking about it, 42 years later. So I think it's very interesting what that hook is for people. Like some people are like, I love Phantom Menace. And I'm like, okay. But that's them, and they had that experience, some people say like, yeah, the pod racing, like that's, like I'm on board. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care how you got in, I just glad that you got in, and that we can kind of have this communal experience about these wonderful stories and the Star Wars universe. So, okay. So now we got that out of the way. So Ben, what were your thoughts about Last Jedi?
Well, before I get into that,
Oh boy, take cover.
I'll just recall a funny little ditty that happened.
Okay.
Right before I started the movie, I turned to the guy next to me and said, "Here goes nothing." And and
Oh no.
I had a lot of issues with The Force Awakens. For the record,
okay.
I liked. I totally flipped myself. I had a lot of issues with The Last Jedi. I actually appreciated The Force Awakens because even though they did sort of repeat some of the things from the original A New Hope, they also I think kept in the same kind of George Lucas idea that these things happen in stanzas, that happens in rhyme. And so at least, some people thought it was a kind of just a cop out. And J.J. Abrams I don't think he's really commented on the rhyming, but I do feel like at least it did kind of have that rhyming. And The Last Jedi, I felt like was a paragraph of not rhyming.
Okay.
It really, it in many ways, I think violated I don't know if violated is the word, but it negated the things that were set up in episodes 1 through 7.
Okay.
And I can get into that if you want, but ultimately, what I saw as I sat watching this movie was really an undoing of Star Wars, at least from my perspective, and at least from the perspective of the story and the ideas of everything that I just mentioned about family and, Luke was somewhere doing something, not helping his friends,
Right.
It just was very odd. And when I talk to people who like the movie, I like I said, I let them. But I also tell them, my criticism is, as a movie, it's okay. It's got some weird hangups with flying Leia and some other things, but
right. Yeah.
But as a movie, it's whatever. I mean, I've seen worse. But as a Star Wars movie, as a where are we at? 8th chapter.
We're 8 chapters in.
It was like a whole new series.
Okay.
Which honestly, and this is a little bit of my conspiracy brain, was kind of what they were going with it.
Okay.
I think it was pretty deliberate that they were.
So you think there's some meta to it, basically? You're saying it's almost talking.
So much meta.
Well, that's the other thing. We did talk about this. Aaron and I had a discussion about this too. Is like, are we better off? As Disney took control of this, and there was this whole Legend series that happened, and then they came in and debunked it, and now we have a new story group kind of doing that, and we talked about that in episode 52. But I mean, it's part of George sold it out, so now it is going to be copied, and then there is going to be. We wanted more Star Wars, and we're going to get more Star Wars, which is awesome because, again, that's going to bring in new fandom. But for a Disney perspective, like for everyone that like kind of sells it off and like, I'm not watching another Star Wars film, there's 20 people behind them that is going to enjoy this new product, whatever that is, So that's kind of, Aaron, I think you used the analogy of a burger joint. You could use the analogy like it's like your favorite band that's on the indie label, and they're rough and they're out of their car, and then they get the huge label, and then they become, then they lose their edge. They lose that fire that you liked, and it's more commercialized, and that's part.
Yeah, they're the same, but
it's the same.
Different.
Yeah, but there's a little edge gone, and I don't know if you're seeing the cracks now. I mean, obviously, right out of the gate, Last Jedi was divisive even more than The Force Awakens. But The Force Awakens, like you said, Ben, it had the same beats. Even though it was somewhat of a copy, it still had kind of the same beats and fell into the same kind of Star Wars-ish, kind of format that George set up. But Last Jedi is totally different, and sometimes, and to some folks, it was too jarring. So I really would like to kind of explore that a little bit more, like what you felt like. It's like you said, it's a little bit meta. What are your thoughts about?
Well, and before I get into the meta, I do want to clarify. In terms of my expectations, I'm not one of those people, and I don't, honestly, I don't think I've met that many people who actually have so firm expectations that they're disappointed. I know there's a story that we're all disappointed because it didn't mean it didn't, we had these expectations of what was going to happen. Snoke is this or that, and that's not who he was, right? I don't think I've ever met a Star Wars fan that was disappointed with a Star Wars movie because Snoke wasn't Ezra, or I haven't met that person, but I do want to clarify that I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to movies. I want to like movies, and the reason why this is so challenging for me is because it seems to be the opposite of a Star Wars movie. In fact, it almost even seems like an anti-Star Wars movie, to the point where towards the end I was thinking like, wow, does Rian Johnson even like Star Wars?
Right. Okay.
And that does get a little into the meta stuff, which I guess we can segue into. But I just wanted to do that segue for folks that, this isn't, I'm not trying to hate on anything. I'm going into it wanting to see how the Star Wars story is progressing within the mythos that George Lucas created from the beginning. Correct. And how he's established it. So that's my frame of reference.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, again, everyone, to the diehard fanboys, the original trilogy is sacred. The prequels, it was somewhat tolerated, too much green screen. And then, The Force Awakens, everyone's like, well, that was A New Hope 2.0. and we need better character development, story, and more tighter stories. And I feel that we got that through Last Jedi, but then it turned into kind of Civil War, you know. And
with, in my opinion, no real reason, or it didn't seem to reflect anything about people or the mistakes. Honestly, the Holdo character not communicating the plan to the rest of the crew just seemed so weird. And then there was no, other than the coup, it didn't even seem like there was any real consequences to that, or that nobody should tell you plans. They should just keep it to themselves. Anyway, that's more into the writing than the themage. But
but I mean, again, like in a business world, like a lot of times you might get some direction and you just got to follow it because you don't know the total plan. And, you know, you can't say some things, you know, in a business world too. It's like, hey, we got to do this. This is what's happening. You're like, okay, you're going to tell me the whole thing? Well, no, not yet. We're still working out everything. And so, you know, from a leadership perspective, sometimes you're just like, hey, you got to do this. You got to, you know, and I will let you know that you got to trust me that this is going to be the right thing to do, you know. So I can see some forgiveness in that, you know, like, hey, and plus his plans failed. So the whole movie's surrounded by failure, you know, and I think that's one of the main things. That's a meta
comment right there.
Well, but he's a flyboy, so it's just it's kind of painting that picture of his character arc. You know, he's the hotshot pilot. He's telling the jokes and doing all those things, but he's also sacrificing bodies, you know, that might have been unnecessary. And I understand your concern. It's like, well, why don't you just tell us, you know, you could have just told them like, hey, we're refueling ships and I'm trying to get the crate. Back off, dude. You know, I don't know. Heather, what are your thoughts on that angle?
It's very interesting. Okay, so I think it's safe to say that whether you enjoyed the movie or didn't enjoy the movie, we all struggled with the Superman Leia situation. Just want to put that out there. I'm coming at it from no expectations. And I think seeing the struggle between a team wanting to know, what are we going to do? We followed Leia for so long, then to have someone come in, it did seem a little, I can see both sides, I guess is what I'm trying to say. As someone who's followed someone for so long, to then basically have a new leader being like, well, I'm not really going to tell you anything. Be like, you just got here. This is our ship. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just see both sides. I'm trying to like justify one over the other.
I can see
not
that
even
too.
justify, but I mean, I can see how that allowed for Poe's frustration,
mutiny
potentially would be a good word to use. Yeah.
Right.
But I could also see, you know, the other side of it is that maybe it's because, excuse me, that Leia had a good handle on who her team was and knew that Poe could potentially fly off the handle and knew it would potentially be safer to maybe not give the full story. Or maybe it was a test. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan definitely established some relationship triangles. So it's Leia, Holdo, Poe. Then you got DJ, Rose, and Finn. And then you got Kylo, Rey, and Luke. Those are the relationship triangles that he established. You know, so and most of those, it's kind of like good, evil in the middle. That's kind of how
neutral. Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of, those are the relationship triangles he established. So, and again, I was always in a conspiracy, like when I first saw her character, Laura Dern, and I knew she's a great actress, as like, she's going to be a foil to Leia. That's how I kind of saw it. But really, she was trying to, Leia and her were on the same page as far as this Poe being kind of a hotshot dude, but they felt like there's leadership potential in him. And, I agree, Ben. It's kind of like, why don't you just tell them the plan? But part of it is, it could be, it's a teaching lesson as well. But, from an audience perspective, it's like, wait, is she just punking like Poe or what's going on here? So I don't know.
The big issue, I mean, there's a lot of them like this, but I think what it comes down to is that I think that the questions that we're asking are not, and this might not sound right coming out, are not the questions that we're supposed to be asking.
Okay.
We're not asking who Snoke is. We're not asking how he seduced Kylo Ren. We're not asking those kinds of questions. We're asking why there was a particular behavior of a character that moved the plot in a very significant way with no real rhyme or reason. We're trying to figure out the rhyme or reason. And that's not storytelling.
Okay.
We're supposed to be looking at the rhyme, and it's all about the rhyme and reason.
It's about the beats.
Poe didn't learn anything from his mutiny. Right? He didn't learn anything. Nobody learned anything.
Right.
Kylo Ren didn't learn anything. I'm jumping around now, but who learned anything?
Luke learned something.
I was going to say Luke learned.
Luke learned.
Luke had a little learning. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
He didn't really go save his friends. So he got himself a technicality.
Well, no, I beg to differ on that, and I feel like he set up the future. He set up the legend of the Jedi to be even bigger than it once was. I
would love to have a positive interpretation.
Well, okay, so let's go way back. Qui-Gon Jinn, which I feel is one of the best Jedis of all, totally screwed up and started this whole war, and we're 40 years later still happening because he couldn't get the Trade Federation to sign some treaty, and now we got basically euthanized the Jedi and all that kind of jazz, because he failed to do his job, basically. But he already kind of saw the writing on the wall, and it's a kind of testament to who he was, the Maverick Jedi. And even Obi-Wan points this out, like, Master, if you just kind of follow the rules, you'll be in the in club. And he's like, I don't want to be part of that because they're not where they need to be, But then, based on his decision, Obi-Wan became a little bit outside of the rules and out of the Jedi Order, and just basically, he kind of was like, all right, I'm going to teach Anakin, even though he probably wasn't ready, and Anakin failed, and Yoda knew when Order 66 was like, he's like, oh boy, I was the big cheese, and everything just kind of went down the crapper, and it was all my fault. So he took off, and then Obi-Wan went into hiding, and like everyone, there is failure in the Jedi Order way before, as this ball got rolling, and Yoda was the wisest Jedi Master of all, and he failed too. And so coming full circle in Last Jedi, he's once again teaching Luke really, we learn in our failures, and that's the positive. And Luke comes out on top at the end, even though he felt like he failed Kylo too. And I think that was ultimately the end where he's like, you know what? I'm not the Last Jedi. I can pass this on in a weird kind of way, but I'm passing this on and basically making the Jedi legendary again to what the galaxy needs. That's my take on it.
I love that take. I hope that it's translated properly into Episode 9.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, because like that, I feel like that's where we get kind of hung up. It's either the Holdo Poe kind of interaction. It's Luke's story arc. You know, some people, like you said, get kind of hung up at Snoke, which I could take or leave as well. What are the things that kind of disturbed you there, Ben?
Well, you know, when I heard, I'm a big fan of the Jedi, and, you know, at myself, having gone into the Chinese medicine, you know, you learn about Qi, you learn to feel Qi, like, it's not that far away from the Force and these sorts of things. And obviously George Lucas borrowed from Taoism. And I think that, so the Jedi, I think, are very important, not just for Star Wars, but also for, as a archetype in and of itself in our culture. Because here we have a religion that has had no casualties, no power grabs, and ultimately doesn't worship any particular individual, but really sort of suggests going within and listening to that inner voice that's always there. And so that's really important. And so I was really nervous when I saw The Last Jedi, and I wasn't sure where they were going to go with it. And on the surface, I will admit, it really looks like they're trying to basically, and by they, I'm referring to Lucasfilm and Disney, it really feels like they're trying to just erase everything that's come before it for the purposes of setting out into doing whatever it is they want to do in the future. I don't know if that's true. Just to me, the tone and direction of that movie it just came across that way to me.
You think they're purging everything, wiping the slate clean?
I mean, they kind of themed about it, right? They were like, forget the past, destroy it if you have to. And both Kylo Ren, you know, he's the dark side, so we want to not listen to what Kylo Ren says, right? But then Yoda says the same thing, and then laughs about it. And it's so weird to me because, like, first of all, in our culture, like, would it make sense to be like, you know what? Forget communism, forget learning about all that, forget, you know, World War II. Let's just brave it on our own and just whatever happens, right? You wouldn't do that. You'd want to know. You'd want to know about that. You want to make sure that other people know. And then going into the Star Wars world, because it's the archetypal equivalent, here you got a galaxy that just got liberated from this evil force that exterminated the Jedi, but now we're supposed to forget it all. And it's just weird. I don't understand. I don't understand why. I don't understand what that leads to. And I feel like those kind of questions are not the kind of questions that a fan would ask about a good Star Wars movie that they were really interested in. I'm trying to understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I think that's all I got. I got in that one.
I mean,
I think some context is necessary on that. You know, when Kylo Ren's saying to, like, forget the past, kill it if you have to. If I remember correctly, he says that to Rey.
Correct.
In the context of forgetting her parentage and what all that means. And
potentially what holds her back.
Yeah, and, you know, in that context, he's saying, like, stop being so worked up about where your parents, they're not coming back. In fact, they never were going to come back because they sold you out for drinking money.
Right. And
given that, it's like he's encouraging her to not let that define her anymore, but to, you know, step out and become her own person. I don't think what he's saying is just like, forget about the past altogether, or just like, forget that ever happened, but not to revolve your life around it anymore.
Yeah.
And in the same way, Yoda's saying that about the Jedi Order. It's something that Lucas aspired to for pretty much his whole adult life. Yeah. And now that he's finally gotten a taste of it, you know, through the legends and through Obi-Wan and Yoda and what he can learn from them, he tries to make it in his own image again, and that spectacularly fails. And Yoda's saying, like, you've let this failure like hang on your back for the past 20, 30 years. It's time to let that go. He's not saying that there are no lessons to be learned from the Jedi Order. He's saying don't try to make the Jedi Order again, because guess what? It failed.
It failed, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And he makes the gesture of destroying the tree, which contained like the holy scriptures of the Jedi way. But he knew like the Jedi scriptures weren't in there.
Yeah, probably.
He knew that Rey had them, so he's not saying literally just toss it all away and don't learn from it. But what he's saying is, dude, you are letting this affect you way too much, and you're framing your entire future endeavors in entirely the wrong way. You've got to experience the Force in a much different way. So I don't think, given those contexts, it's fair to say that Disney's kind of giving us like the nudge saying like, hey, we're just going to wipe out everything you ever loved about Star Wars.
Right.
Now down to us now.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that's entirely fair. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so.
I mean, overall,
I hope so.
It was definitely a transitional movie.
Yes.
From
Absolutely.
old school to new school, and just basically in light of characters being killed and actual actors passing away.
Right.
And so obviously, that's how I definitely saw The Force Awakens, and then further confirmed in The Last Jedi, that, we're seeing a new form of Star Wars. But I kind of want to echo a little bit of what Aaron said without repeating everything that Aaron said. That, yeah, you have the beauty of remembering the past, but you don't have to live in the past. We don't have to dwell in it. We can move forward. And sometimes change is good, and kind of pushing those boundaries. A good leader doesn't necessarily do everything their previous leader did as times change. And I think that if Disney is smart, if they do make changes, they're not going to do it in jeopardizing the history, that they can figure out a way to make it continuous. And maybe that is just a difference between Director A and Director B. And we'll see what happens when we go back to Director A.
Right.
We certainly will.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean...
Who would have thought, just real quick, who would have thought that the cliffhanger of The Last Jedi was the entire movie itself? That's a meta point right there.
Yeah, it is. Because again, the cliffhanger of Force Awakens is like Luke is on a cliff. It's like he's literally on a cliff, and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? And I must say this too. This is somewhat what George wanted too, a reluctant Luke teaching a Padawan about the ways of the Force. They took that idea, but they pushed Luke. That's what they said, when they were developing the script for Force Awakens. They didn't want Luke to be the prominent. They wanted Luke to kind of be the MacGuffin that they're searching for at the end. And so Lucas already kind of had that idea as far as like Luke being that reluctant teacher. So that's an idea he kind of already put in place, and Disney did take part of that. So, like you said, it's like who would have thought that the actual cliffhanger would have been the whole movie? It does, and that's the thing. Like, what would you like to see? Here's a question around. We'll go around the table here. What would you like to see in Episode 9? So, Ben, I'm going to start with you. Like, what would you like to see come out of Episode 9, based on what we saw, in 7 and 8 here?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that. Thank you. I honestly am, again, really flexible with the direction that the team wants to go. But underlying all of it, I believe Star Wars is a love story. And it's a love story for friends. It's a love story for family. And honestly, nobody says, well, I guess there is an I love you moment, but it's not the traditional I love you moment. The love comes in the action rather than the words, if that makes sense. The love comes from the conviction and the self-sacrifice rather than, again, the words. And so when Finn attempted to sacrifice himself, I was like, all right, this is Star Wars. Here we are, and then, no, you can't sacrifice yourself because we have to save you and put everyone else's life in danger. Or at least, But anyway, I'm getting off track. My point is that that I want them to come back to that. I don't want it to be a love story like between two people, like between Rey and Kylo. I want it to be bigger, in that epic timeless tale where it's always bigger, like Star Wars.
Yeah. Interesting. Very good.
No pressure or anything.
I just want it huge. I want it this big thing.
It's like a Star Destroyer, but it's bigger. It's a bigger Star Destroyer.
It's huge.
It's a Death Star, but bigger.
Right, exactly.
It's like a lightsaber, but it's bigger.
Bigger, and it has like 2 lightsabers out of it. It's like huge. Yeah. All right, Heather. What do you want to see in Episode 9? Like, what do you want to see with that?
Yeah, I'm going to actually steal one of your predictions for The Last Jedi.
Oh my gosh, okay.
I know. Now I want Kylo to go completely dark.
Okay.
I feel like we got a little bit into his head in The Last Jedi. He took down Snoke. Mm-hmm. He played his card.
He kind of seemed to solidify himself, didn't he?
This is right. Like, I feel like he went from the, you don't own me anymore. I'm going to play my hand. Let's do this. And so I think now would be a great time for him to really just, like, become the new dark side.
Yeah, first he kills his family connection. He kills his past. Then he kills his master. It's very Sith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that would be really cool for him. I'm in agreement with you, Ben, about the love story thing. I really hope that how we've sort of ended Last Jedi. I'm a little nervous about like the Rose component and this like childhood crush thing she's got going on. I'm like, please be tentative of that. We don't always need a love story with flowers and candy.
A traditional love story, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
yes. Yeah. Or it needs to have a different spin. There has to be something kitschy about it. The reason that Han and Leia worked is because literally in the same I love you followed with the I know, it's almost like, but I'm also going to kill you component. And that's what made it good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just hard to go back in time. But yeah, so I want...
Han, not to cut you off, but Han is sacrificing himself in a way. I mean, he didn't really have the option, but...
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Right.
But yeah, and so I want Kylo to go dark. And then I'm also completely unsure about what I want for Rey now. Because I don't know what's left for her to discover.
Right.
I'll be honest with you guys. I was really surprised. I feel like all of the bells and whistles was all pointing at Grey Jedi.
I know.
And when they were right there in the throne room, and it was like, okay, here we go. They're going to unite under this Grey Jedi. It's going to be this new thing. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think now the only option is for her to go light, and I'm like, but we've done this already.
She's already light.
Right. Yes. Well, I mean, like, in extremeness to my ultimate dark character.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Right.
She will be the antithesis of Kylo Ren.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm just like, that's a little obvious. Because I'm like, if you're going to change the over arc of Star Wars, then do it in a way that's going to make the fan base happy.
Yes. Yeah.
Go Gray.
Contribute something.
Yeah.
Right. Add something to the Star Wars lore, Yeah.
Totally.
And this not just hyperspacing into other ships, because that actually breaks everything.
Which is still a great scene.
It was beautiful and flawed at the same time.
Yeah.
Like this movie.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Aaron, what do you want to see from episode 9?
Oh, boy.
No pressure.
I am not excited for episode 9.
Oh, all right.
I really don't know how they're gonna pull it off, because JJ, he built this tower of shock and horror, and then Ryan comes by with a baseball bat and knocks it over. Then he starts building his own little tower of shock and horror, and then JJ's gonna come, and it's like, is he gonna keep building that, or is he gonna knock it down too? And I mean, Princess Leia, I think she should have died in space, just floating there. I think that would have been a proper send off, because Kylo didn't kill her, but she gets a hero's death. But now that's out of the window,
if I could,
what are they going to do with her?
I'm going to stop you right there. I feel like she should have been Holdo. She should have been the one to do the hyperspace moment, and then Poe comes out of his little stunned coma state and realizes he cannot help her, and she's the one driving that capital ship into the First Order. That's true leadership, and that would accelerate Poe's character to a whole new level. And you don't need Holdo. You don't need that character.
Yeah. Sorry, Laura Dern. Love you, babe. But
love you, babe.
Your character's useless.
Love you, babe. Okay, what else, Aaron? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I feel like that's
Great
where,
points.
Again, like
no, that was a good point.
It's like the point, like personally, I would have loved to seen Akbar do that, but Akbar. But you can't get a range of motion. At least you did get that from Laura Dern. She's a fantastic actress as far as like emotional, how she conveyed that scene. But I feel like Leia doing that would have been so much more powerful. Just think, I mean,
absolutely.
And even that the silence part and the whole thing that they did, which is fantastic. It just would add a little bit more gravitas to the whole thing, man. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So continue on. Sorry.
And so now we got a mess to clean up, and it's like, are they going to pull a Tarkin and just CGI her back in, or is it like, when an actor dies on a TV show and they just got to like write him out and like, oh, they went off to a nice farm somewhere. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? I don't know. But, so I have no confidence in how they're going to handle Leia. Kylo, he is freaking amazing now.
Yeah.
He's probably the most interesting character Star Wars has to offer
Hats
now.
Hats off to him.
Yeah, that's incredible. I really love his direction. But why couldn't Rey go along with him? Right. I still hate her. She was less annoying in The Last Jedi, but still a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
And I get why they do it. They want this like awesome role model for the kids. And she needs to be untainted and pure, but that doesn't mean not have flaws. And what would have been amazing?
Tell me what would have been amazing
if Rey joined Kylo in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And just like, broke bad, and now she's like, oh, she's got a character arc now. She's made decisions.
Well,
she's changed. She's different.
And the cliffhanger, is she gonna go help her friends? We don't know.
Stay with her new boo. Right. I don't know. We don't know.
I guess you'll have to tune in next time.
Next time.
Yeah, that would have been awesome, but no, we don't have that. So Rey's, she's just gonna go the straight and narrow path, and just be the hero of the rebellion again.
Say with some enthusiasm, 9. Aaron. Come on.
Killing me, dude. Yeah, as far as Rose and Finn, I hope that goes nowhere because I am not interested in their relationship at all. It just felt forced in.
What relationship?
Can you tell I love this movie, by the way? I actually still do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I still love this movie, but the way one of my friends put it was this movie did a lot wrong, but it got a lot right.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that there's some stupid writing decisions, like the whole Canto Bite, Finn, Rose, DJ subplot. Just remove it. It's useless. It doesn't advance the story at all.
It advances the characters, not the story.
Right.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But not in a way that's satisfying or like, that has to be in there.
It could have been a 5-minute scene and not a 25-minute scene.
Yeah. Felt a lot longer than that.
It probably was. I just made up things.
Yeah. Jeez. I mean...
Anything else, Aaron?
I wish Finn just stayed in that coma, to be honest.
Wow.
Sorry, dude.
Wow.
But if you're
That's your
if you're
bro,
not gonna have
dude. That's your bro.
I know. If you're not gonna have a dashing bromance with my man Poe, like just go back to bed.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, at least that would have been a contribution.
Yeah. At least that would have been something.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a fan of Rose. Finn, you're on thin ice, pal. Poe, keep doing your thing.
Keep doing your thing.
Rocket girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that I really don't have much confidence in Episode 9.
Wow.
There's so many things like they could have wrapped things up tidier in Last Jedi and set them up for slam dunk Episode 9, but they didn't. So how are they going to pull it off? I don't know. But this is what you get when you don't write your trilogy out ahead of time.
You mean like wait? Do you mean like some kind of story treatment? Where you think about character arcs and development?
If only they had someone in charge of all of this,
or
like
some sort of
I don't know, a
something
story
they can have
group
referred to.
Right.
Really, honestly,
Aaron.
I tried to get the hashtag "Where's Pablo Hidalgo" trending. It did not work.
Oh, jeez.
He's there.
Exactly.
He's there. All right. This is
he's taking refuge on Octo.
Yeah, this is how we fix it. All right. Okay. It kind of goes back to what like Heather said, and I guess I said too, is like, Kylo's completely to the dark, right? He's totally that way, and he's super evil, which we haven't seen in a long time because even good old Darth Vader got soft at the end, right? So he goes completely to the dark. We need the First Order to dominate the galaxy to a point of where we see it happening. Like, I want to see them stealing babies and training up the stormtroopers and like making it like so it's uncomfortably bad, right? And that's where we get the hope. And that's where we see the Resistance, aka the Rebel Alliance, and they make a final stand against this evil, and the galaxy unites under that, and we see like other systems take control. Because right now, we unfortunately we never really got to see that, even from the Empire perspective, and a little bit with the First Order. Like, what makes them bad? And like, there's some things that we get to see, but we really don't get to see like the full picture. We should see like complete and utter like oppression. We got a little bit that of like in Rogue One, but not like a lot. But it would be nice to see just like the fists of the First Order like really take hold of the galaxy. And what would be really interesting is, I know you don't like Canto Bite, but you have the warmongers, the war profiteers that are making money off of it, right? So now they're only making money or making ships for the First Order or whatever, and there's no profit in that, right? So take one of those warmongers and they get a wrong end of the deal, from the First Order, and they help supply the Resistance and help them build ships and help them build an army. And that would be a very cool angle to explore in Episode 9. So
you thought this through. Like, you should be hired on the story group. They could learn a thing or two from you.
Hey, man, I love Star Wars. I love the universe. Like I said earlier, what makes Star Wars Star Wars? It's just like those are, I mean, that's kind of what we need to see, you know, and from a movie experience, it would be, you know, you want that roller coaster ride, and you don't need these cheesy love things with Rose and Finn and all that jazz. You need something where it's almost to the, you know, almost to the point of this is not going to go well at all. And you want to have, like, again, you got to have that Empire, almost that Empire ending where it's like, you know, did the good guys actually lose that? And yep, they sure did. But like, you want that almost like, and it just, you want, like Ben said earlier, you want it to be bigger at the end. Like, you know, and like like, it doesn't have to end cleanly. That's what I'm saying. I don't like, you know, I don't want this like happy Ewok village thing. Sorry, Heather, but I don't want this happy ending. You almost want it where like, oh, they're gonna do this, and it ends, and you're like, what? And that's what you want. You want it to just like have that impact where then we're talking about like what's going to happen, and we might never find out, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? That's how you make it bigger. That's how you make it like, and you save it, and you're like, okay, we're cool now. We're cool, Disney. You know. So
what you're saying is we need some Star Wars concentration camp.
Yeah.
Collect the play sets, all that.
Well, you're taking a little extreme.
This is a family picture.
Right. This is a family picture. Well, and I think obviously back to Rey, that's why they're doing it. I really did want Rey to be messy, or I wanted that gray Jedi angle, like combining the two in the middle to make peace, because either side's kind of like Luke said, is like hubris. It's like you don't own the Force. No one owns the Force. It's just a tool, you know, right. And how you wield that tool is what kind of determines that side. But if you stay in the middle, you know, that makes it interesting. That makes it unique, you know. So
well, and The Last Jedi ended with such a bow on top that I'm afraid that our new movie is going to feel forced.
Yeah, I felt like it was chaos.
Over. No pun intended.
I felt like it was, you know, the kid, and he goes out and the broom handle like a lightsaber, and he's got the ring, and it's like, okay, new generation, like we're done with this trilogy. Bye.
Yeah.
Fight another day. It was very odd.
Unless they keep the weird Skype calls going in the new movie to keep rattling the brains. Yeah.
I always felt like that should have been Lando. That should have been a Lando call.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what about
he's coming
back?
He
would be the one to know about the code breaker, right?
Yeah. Or Lando just being in Cantobite in general. Be like, dude, there's Lando. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, even a cameo would have been cool.
Right.
He would have done it.
He would have saved it for you.
Yeah. So real quick, I just like to parallel another franchise that recently came out with a sequel after many, many years.
Okay.
I don't know if y'all have seen it, but it was the Blade Runner 2049 movie. Did you guys see that?
What'd you think of that?
I did not see it.
We did an episode about it.
Cool. The reason I wanted to bring it up
check that out.
is because it seems like it hits, I won't give anything away. Go see it if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. But it hits a lot of the same ideas that we're talking about in terms of, first of all, you know, legacy characters, right? The original Deckard, Harrison Ford, comes back. But it's definitely not about him in the same way that the new trilogy is not about the original characters.
Right.
The handoff is seamless. It doesn't even feel like a handoff. It feels like, well, at least, you know, I'm totally blanking on the guy's name. Who's the actor? Gosling.
Ryan
Gosling.
Yeah.
Really owns the whole movie. I'm really impressed with his performance. And what I liked about it is that it definitely upgraded the effects, just like the original. It expanded the world, just like the new movies do. It kept the themes of what is it to be human, where is that line,
right,
et cetera, but it also really contributed some new ideas that really haven't been talked about, at least in the Blade Runner universe. And really, so there's a reason for this movie. There's a reason to go see it. There's a reason to have it in your thoughts. If you're one of those people that has movies in their thoughts.
Right. We I think we all are. But here's a problem, Ben. Here's a problem with that one. No one saw it.
Well,
yet it's an amazing movie. So,
you mean nobody saw it in this group, or nobody saw it in theaters?
No, I
saw it in theaters.
I'm saying,
but like it got pulled out of theaters like a few weeks after it came out.
Fourth week, yeah. And
so
I believe it
lost a bunch
was
of money.
considered a success. However, it did not have the longevity, but of course, neither did the first.
Correct.
It was a critical success. I think it lost money actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I totally understand what you're saying. Like it's I haven't seen it yet. I love the original one, and I'm gonna get it when it comes out on Blu-ray. But it didn't do well in the box office, you know.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
This kind of goes back to the earlier point, you know, Disney buying Lucasfilms. Yes, they're going to make money. They have already made money. They've already, you know, returned their investment tenfold with them buying this, you know, basically this franchise, right? So, you know, and they got to put butts in the seat. So that's, you know, this is where we kind of get into the thing like, well, is it diluting the product? And a little bit it is, but I think they also understand if you dilute it too much, then you're losing the flavor and no one's going to see it. And that's what they don't want. So it's a very fine line. And that's why, you know, we as fans like have to stand up, you know, and I think they heard it loud and clear as far as like, okay, I understand.
Hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the points, I mean, again, it made $1 billion. It's fine. Everyone's fine. Everything's fine here. You know, but
how are you?
How are you? I think though, to your points, like a Blade Runner where it did hit the beats and it did do the baton toss and it's all there. No one saw it. So you have to have like, okay, how do you get butts in the seat, make it entertaining, make it a popcorn movie, but extend that lore that we all love and make it Star Wars, you know? So
yeah,
time will tell.
Indeed.
So
we will find out
soon. So sometime.
Yeah.
So yes, I feel like this is we have. Here's the thing too. We have a little luxury. We got 2 years to talk about this thing. So I think this could go on. Yeah, who is Holdo? Right, exactly. Right. So yeah, I think we could continue this conversation, but I think this was a healthy conversation, which we must have in the Star Wars universe.
I'd like to just thank you guys for offering me your perspectives. I actually have been pretty acid about this movie. I do again allow other people to like it, but it has been hard for me to look at the flaws and to then acknowledge the redeeming value. But I do really appreciate you guys' feedback on. There definitely is some redeeming values. There's some lessons. You know, don't get hung up on the failures. Forget at least that stuff. I think is a worthwhile lesson, and especially as we get older. It becomes a more important lesson because we will mess up again.
We will.
So,
yes.
Just wanted to thank you guys for your perspectives on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, we survived the prequels. We're gonna survive the sequels. And again, that's it's people kind of forget like George made the the prequels too. So yeah. But anyways, totally. Here to you as well, Ben. I think it's good to hear other opinions, and that's what makes the universe go around, man. It makes the Star Wars universe goes around. All right, let's move on to news of the week.
And now the Star Wars news of the week.
All right, I picked this one out just for you, Aaron. Here we go. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, here we go. So this came from Cinema Blend, and basically they were saying about the relationship between like Rey and Finn, and then you got Rey and Kylo, you know, but then obviously the bromance, Finn and Poe, and that got kind of like disrupted when Finn kissed somebody else, you know. So Oscar Isaac was saying, it was a little difficult to see my man kiss somebody else, but you know, you got to give up control. You got to watch some stuff you don't want to watch sometimes. I don't know if he was talking about the movie too, or he was talking about.
Sounds like he's given up.
Yeah, no, they were kind of pushing the idea, you know, could it, you know, is it about the, you know, they had everyone, it was recognizable about the instant chemistry together. Fans were wondering, you know, is this a legitimate romance between two men, or was it a bromance, or what it was? And then, you know, they go off and you have Finn kiss Rose, you know what I'm saying? So, but you never know.
Can I just cut in for a second? This actually came up a little bit before. No. And I just, you know, like, can we, when two guys are really friendly and nice to each other, can it stop being gay? Like, it's okay if it's gay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But can it stop meaning that it's gay? Like, honestly, the guys escaped from the whatever First Order ship, Solar TIE Fighter. They crash landed on the planet. They reconnected. Like, they're gonna be bros. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
Right.
So anyway, it's okay if they could also have a romance,
you,
but.
Man.
I just feel like it's okay for people to be nice to other people and to like them. It's okay.
Right. It doesn't have to be a homosexual thing or anything like that. It could just be like...
But it also could be, but it doesn't need to be. Right. I don't want to get in trouble.
Right. No, it's totally fine.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree, you know.
Why can't bros just be bros?
Right, you know? Right. So I had to pick that one for you, man, you know.
Leave it to the haters to ruin everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right. They're just jealous that they don't have a bro like Poe, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that needs to be on some kind of cloth.
Buy our t-shirt now.
Right. Oh man, that's awesome. Okay, so this just came out the other day, and this came from Gizmodo, and basically this author was talking about the nostalgia. Like, I don't need another nostalgia Star Wars movie, referring to Han Solo. So I'm going to read like a little clip here, what he wrote. He said, "But my sudden apprehension of Solo nostalgia-driven smuggler run is because that Last Jedi shockingly tore down the need for established order of Star Wars itself. It showed us an exciting new generation armed with the knowledge brought by the success and failures of generations before it, which could break the cycle and forge its own path. Mainly, if you gave me the realization, that I have had enough of the Republic Empire battle, and that it's time for Star Wars to try something brave and new without the structural framework. To me, The Last Jedi was, as both Admiral Holdo and Poe Dameron intone in the movie, the spark that would light a fire that could guide the way into a truly new era for Star Wars." So we kind of just talked about that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That, like, again, like, I think the apprehension with Han Solo is like, you don't want it to be like the old SNL skit, like with Chris Farley. It's like, you remember the time you did that thing, like the Kessel Run? That was awesome. You know, like, you don't want it to be like this whole repeat, you know, like, oh yeah, we saw it, now we got to see that. Like, I hope Han Solo brings that kind of something fresh too, not just like, just going through the beats of like, oh, here's the Kessel Run, and here's when they met, you know, Chewie and Han met. I don't know. So
I'll be honest with you guys. I really, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to go see this movie in the theater.
What? Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And
okay.
I, like many other people will say, didn't ask for it. And
right.
I just keep hearing about all these beats they're gonna do. Oh, he's gonna save Chewie, and that's where he's gonna get the Falcon, and then the Kessel Run, and and Jabba. Don't forget Jabba And but we got to put Vader in it because reasons. So I don't know. I think I probably talked about this the last time we talked about the Han Solo movie, but
Pretty sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, you know, I hope. I mean, Ron Howard, man. Good luck, buddy. Good luck.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the way I see it, it's like for so long we've had the Skywalker soap opera. And then like The Force Awakens comes out and it just feels like Disney's just like, you know, got us up on their knee and they're telling us stories and they're like, remember when? It's like, yes, we remember. Yes. We got it on Blu-ray. Like
I watched it before I came
it's right
here.
there. Yeah. It's like, we remember. Okay.
Yeah.
And Solo, it's like, I agree with Ben. I'm like, what are they going to do that's not going to feel like a high school reunion?
Right.
Where it's like, do you remember when? Yes. Okay, great. I hope they do something like totally unexpected and cool.
Yeah.
But we're given no indication that that's the case.
Yeah.
We don't even have a trailer yet. We're supposed to do a trailer thing with no. Yeah. Irritating.
You got your old.
You want me to be excited about your movie? You got to work a lot harder than that to make me excited.
You got your old man pants on today. You got those old man Graham pants on today, man.
Dude, they're always on. I'm just good at like suppressing.
Back in my day, movies had substance.
You know, Jaws: The Revenge.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So I picked the one for Aaron. So now, Heather, this one's for you. Okay.
Okay.
So Wired.com ran this, and it kind of came from, the source was actually Wall Street Journal of all places. So Kylo Ren's high waist tights. Okay. So as we know, our good friend John Mayer did Kylo Ren challenge to, rack those pants above the waistline as Kylo Ren did. So basically, here's the thing that they said. It's perhaps the most surprising thing about Last Jedi's story to appear in recent week is this Wall Street Journal piece about high waist tights for Kylo, or in the one super uncomfortable scene of him force communicating with Rey. Don't pretend like you know exactly which one we're talking about. For one, it was surprising because it was, as the journal said, it's also because it focused on how hard shirtless, buff Kylo Ren was to pull off for cosplayers. The piece even quotes that Last Jedi custom designer Michael Kaplan, who said, "The world of Star Wars is not our world. Kylo Ren is not some hipster in his hip-hugging jeans. Think Errol Flynn, swashbuckling coolness as a point of departure. Hide the navel." So now you know. Also, to be honest, Kylo Ren most definitely is some hipster in hip-hugging jeans, even if his wardrobe doesn't reflect it. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like, now cosplayers, it's going to be kind of hard to pull off the high pants.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, we've had scantily clad female cosplay. Now we can have scantily clad male cosplay. We're here.
We've arrived.
Is this generation Slave Leia?
What's that?
Is it this generation Slave Leia? Here we go.
You know what? You actually took the words right out of my mouth. I gotta say, hats off to you, sir.
Right, and they're gonna be
to you.
That's the funny part, because it's all going to be coming in all different shapes and sizes.
Can you imagine a whole bunch of cosplay waist pants Kylo Ren, with a huge lineup, and then next to some tall guy as Snoke? Can you imagine?
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
the possibilities are endless on that one. So. And then finally, we didn't get the trailer, but basically we got something from Lucasfilm about the Star Wars story of Solo. So here we go.
What?
Yes. Here we go. You ready? Here we go. Here's a little synopsis. This basically got leaked from a toy packaging. Thank you, toys. Okay. Board the Millennium Falcon and the journey to a galaxy far, far away in Solo, a Star Wars story, an all-new adventure with the most beloved scoundrel in the galaxy. Through a series of daring escapades deep within a dark and dangerous criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his mighty future co-pilot Chewbacca and encounters the notorious gambler Lando Calrissian in a journey that will set the course of one of the Star Wars saga's most unlikely heroes.
What a twist! Wow! Didn't see that coming.
Oh my gosh. So there you have it.
Yep, I've already seen the movie.
Is that off the back of like a Pop-Tarts box or something?
That's on the back of a toy, dude. So there you go, man.
All right. I am going to go out on a limb, you guys.
Okay.
Boba Fett?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's not where I was going, but we can go that way if we need to.
Right.
I'm slightly intrigued by young Lando.
Yes.
In the new Solo movie.
Okay.
Like,
yes.
That might be what gets me in the theater.
Yeah.
Yep. I love Danny Glover.
Uh-huh.
I'll be intrigued to see what he brings to the story, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think he's a character worth exploring.
Well, and I'm excited for Woody Harrelson, actually. He's good.
Sure.
I think he's going to bring a lot. Yeah. So.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
He's my only spark of hope for this movie.
Yeah. So, but what does that say when we're more excited about our side characters than our main character?
I know.
Thank you.
I know.
It makes me, I really hope that Lucasfilm is paying attention to all of the feedback they're getting. It's easy to get into that echo chamber, especially when you spend all day and night working with the same people.
That's true.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like Han Solo is really going to be the linchpin to what we're going to have in the future, regardless of Episode 9. I think if the Han Solo movie doesn't work, and it's really noticeable, more noticeable than Last Jedi, I'll just say, I think we're going to see some elaborate shifting around at Lucasfilm.
Ooh.
I don't know if you guys have heard about the China market dropping.
Yeah. China.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think part of that too is because there was so much negativity that did cause that effect because it released 4 weeks later, so they got some of that bad vibes.
Yeah, they watched all the YouTube reviews
of all all the fanboys crying.
Yeah, I cried too.
So, and we might be crying. We might be crying with Solo. We'll see. All right, that concludes the news of the week. How about I wrap us up, guys? All right. So
wrap us up and roll us down the stairs
into new horizons. All right. So Ben, why don't you tell the listeners where they can find you? Well, I do the social media.
Okay. Yeah.
If you don't want to be political, don't find me on Twitter.
Oh boy.
Fair.
Just saying.
But you have a big red button. Yeah, you have a big red button on your desk. I know.
I have a big red button and a cat watching it curiously. But The Real Volk is my handle, and I'm on Gab and Twitter and Instagram. Instagram and Facebook are actually the regular haunts. And like I said, stay away from Twitter if you don't want to go there.
Right. You know what's good for you.
Because odds are I think differently than you.
Right. You have opinions. Yes, exactly.
We'll just go with that.
Got us a scoundrel here.
Awesome. Well, once again, thanks, Ben, for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Podcast. Once again, you can check us out on social media at WSTR Media. All one word, all lowercase. We want to hear from you. So comment, tweet, rate us on iTunes. Email us at wstrpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. Operators are standing by. Heather will take those calls for you and listen to all your episode 9 theories.
And take diligent notes.
Diligent notes. Yes. Exactly.
Holdo is Snoke.
Write down all the different theories you can, Heather, so then we could talk about that in a future episode. So,
perfect.
Again, you can listen to all our back catalog at wstrmedia.libsyn.com. That's wstrmedia.libsyn.com. And this is all the ways you get a hold of us. So I don't know. Sometime we're going to get a trailer. Now I'm here in Super Bowl, so one of these days we are going to review that Han Solo trailer. But we'll be talking something about Star Wars next week for sure. So, and now this is podcasting. Oh, that was the best one yet. Best one yet. Yay!
We did it.
Oh, that was great.